This is a reteach for Lesson 9.5 Slope-Intercept form. You're going to need to be able to determine the slope and y-intercepts of each line, and you need to be able to graph the linear equation. So in your notes we have slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. Okay? M is the what? B is the what? M is the slope. B is the y-intercept. So again, M is the slope. B is the y-intercept. So we're going to practice writing the equation of a line given the slope and the y-intercept. So our directions are to write the equation of the line with the given slope and y-intercept. So we have our slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. They tell you slope is -2. We know m is the slope, so -2 is going to replace that m. They tell you the y-intercept is 5. We know b is the y-intercept, so 5 is going to go where that b is. Take a second and pause the video and fill in the notes for 1 and 2. So your equation for this first one with a -2 slope and a 5 y-intercept would be y equals -2x plus 5. For number 2, where the slope is 3/4 and the y-intercept is -3, we'd have y equals 3/4 x minus 3. Now we need to be able to find the slope and the y-intercept and write an equation from a graph. Okay? So we are still using the equation y equals mx plus b. So we look here for our slope. Here we're going to use the equation. For slope, we're going to use the equation y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Okay, we have our 2 points. This is an x, this is a y. This is an x, this is a y. Okay, so now we plug in these numbers. Let's call this one, this x2, this y2. Okay, let's start with our y's. What's -5 minus, up here, we have a -1, divided by, we have 0 minus 3. Okay, so -5 minus a -1, remember that turns to plus. -5 plus 1 would be -4, divided by 0 minus 3 is -3. So we have -4 over -3. A negative divided by a negative is a positive. So we have our slope as 4/3. Now we need to look where it crosses the y. This is the y-axis. The y-axis is at 0, -5. It crosses at -5. That's our y-intercept. So now if we know this is 4/3 and this is -5, then our equation would be y equals 4/3 x minus 5. Let's check. Does it cross at -5? Yes. Let's count. Do we go up 4? 1, 2, 3, 4 over 3. 1, 2, 3. We hit a dot. So we start at 1 dot. We count our slope. It's a +4, so it's up 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a +3, so we go over 3. 1, 2, 3. We hit our line. Try this one. We know we're going to have a negative slope because it starts up high and goes low. Okay, so label your points and subtract. Your equation is y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. That's. Go ahead and find that. Remember, your y-intercept is where it crosses the y. So where does this cross the y? Go ahead and solve number 4. Pause the video and solve it, and then check your answer. You should have got -1/2. So drop 1 over 2, hit the line. Drop 1 over 2, hit the line. Your y-intercept, it crosses here at 1. So your equation is y equals -1/2 x plus 1. Here are some simpler graphs. You can start at this dot. Remember, rise over run. Our line goes from down to up here. So that's a positive line. We know this one's going to be a positive slope. Ooh. So we know this one's going to be positive because it goes from this direction up and it goes from this direction down. So we know this one's going to have a negative slope. Let's count up. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we know it's 4 is our rise. Our run is 1, 2, 3. So 4/3. Where does it cross the y? At our x is 0. Our y-intercept always has a 0x, and then we go up 2. So our y-intercept is 2. Our equation would be y equals 4/3 x plus 2. Pause the video and you try number 6. How'd you do? Let's count. We go down 3 over 2. So -3/2. Your y-intercept, look at that. Let's count down from 0. The origin, 1, 2, 3. -3. Y equals -3/2 x minus 3. Now, let's look at this table. We're going to write an equation of a line in slope-intercept form from a table. So remember, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. So, m is our slope. Slope is the change in y over the change in x. So let's look at our y's. We go from -3 to -1, from -1 to 1, 1 to 3, 3 to 5. What are they doing here? They're adding 2. That's the change in y. Let's look at the x. We have -2 to -1, -1 to 0, 0 to 1, 0 to 2. We're adding 1. So your slope is going to be 2 over 1. Okay? Let's look at the next example. What would our slope be? We go 4 to 3.5, 3.5 to 3, 3 to 2.5. we're getting smaller. So we know it's dropping, so it's a negative slope by 0.5, 0.5. Let's look at this one. -2 to 1, -1 to 0, 0 to 1, so it's adding 1. So it would be -0.5 over 1. Let's look at our next example. Our change in y, -16 to 7, 7 to 1, 8, well, -1 to 8, 8 to 14. We're adding something. So what are we adding here? Okay. Well, this one is a little confusing because you can't see a pattern here. Like this one is add 9 from here to here. -5 to 2 is they added 3. So 9 divided by 3, our slope would be 3. Okay. From 7 to -1, they added 6. To -2 to 0, they added 2. Our slope is still 3. So we're looking at our changes. So your slope is 3. Okay, let's check our work. We had -1/2 and we had 3. Good job. So our original thing was to write an equation of in slope-intercept form from a table. So we found our slopes. Now we have to find our y-intercept. Well, if you look here, we said our y-intercept will always have a 0 for an x. So our y-intercept in this one is going to be 1. Okay. In this table, we have a 0 for an x and 3 for a y. So in this table, our y-intercept is going to be 3. And in this table, our y-intercept is going to be -1. So for this table, our equation would be y equals 2x plus 1. Let me make my x look like an x. And this one, our formula in slope-intercept form would be y equals 1/2 x and -1/2 x. And I wrote it as a decimal. Either way works. Plus 3. And in this one, we would have y equals, our slope was 3, 3x minus our y-intercept was -1, -1. So as you see, our y-intercept in each one was when 0 was for the x. But what do you do if 0 is not in your table? So what do you do if the 0 is not in the table? Well, you find your slope. Let's look at this table. Let's do our change in y over our change in x. Okay. Here, 11 to 15 is adding 4. So we have 4. Here we're adding 1. So 4 over 1 would be our slope. So we know 4 is going to be our slope here. 4x plus b. Choose an ordered pair and substitute. Okay, so I'm going to pick 111. I'm going to plug those in for my y and x. So our equation would be, I'm going to put an 11 where the y is. 11 equals 4 So 4 is our slope. We're going to put it there. We're going to pick a point and plug them in to solve for b. So 11 equals 4x, 4 times 1, because that's our point, plus b. Okay, 4 times 1 is 4, so we have 11. Oops, let's not use that one. 11 plus equals 4 plus b. To solve this equation, we'd subtract 4 for both sides. That cancels out. Subtract 4. We get 7 equals b. So, b is 7. That's where it would cross the line. In this example here, they used the point 527. You'll get the same answer. Y equals 4x plus 7. Let's put it all together. Write a linear equation for the table shown. Find the slope. Well, let's find the change in y over the change in x. We have -6 minus 4 minus a -4, which would be -6 plus 4, which is +2. We have -1 minus 0, which is going to be -1. Okay, so our slope would be 2 over -1. Okay, let's find our y-intercept. Well, when the x is 0, the y is our y-intercept. So here we're adding 1, here we're adding 2, so our slope is 2. We get y equals 2x plus our y-intercept would be -4. So our equation would be y equals 2x minus 4. All right, I want you to find the slope and the y-intercept for both of these tables and write them in your notes. Pause the video now. Okay, so check your work. How'd we do? So now we're going to graph these equations, a linear equation given the equation. So graph the equations in slope-intercept form. Remember that's y equals mx plus b. So start with your y-intercept first, okay, where it crosses the y. So let's look at our equation. Our slope is 2. Always make it a fraction. You can put it over 1. Your y-intercept is 1. So start at your origin. Go up 1 to the y-intercept. Then you can count up 2. Start at your y-intercept. Up 2 over 1, put a dot. Up 2 over 1, put a dot. Down 2 over 1, put a dot. Down 2 over 1, put a dot. Then you're going to draw a nice straight line with a ruler. I'll show you in a second. On this one, our slope is -2/3. And our y-intercept is -2. So start at the origin, count down 2. Okay, now our slope is -2/3. Okay. So down 2 over 3. 1, 2, 3. Remember to start at your y-intercept. Down 2 over 3. Up 2, back 3. Up 2, back 3. So this is a negative slope. Remember, negative comes high and goes low. This is a positive slope, goes low and goes high. Okay, let's look at our lines drawn with a ruler. All right. Looks pretty good. our last one. Okay, so now we're going to graph one that is not in slope-intercept form. This one is already in it for us. This one is not. So we have to adjust it and write it in slope-intercept form. So we want the y by itself. So we need to move this 4 and -8. So draw the line down your equal sign. We're going to move the 8 first. Let's add 8 and then add 8. Okay, so now we have 4y. That cancels out, equals 2x plus 8. We are not done. We have this 4 next to that y. We got to get rid of it. What's the opposite of multiplying by 4? Divide by 4. Divide everything on this side by 4. The y 4's cancel out. We get y, yeah, that's the form we want, equals 2 divided by 4 is the same as 1/2, right? 2 divided by 2 is 1, 4 divided by 2 is 2, so there's our slope. 1/2 x plus 8 divided by 4 is 2. So let's make our y-intercept. Positive 2, up 1, up 2, put a dot. We have a positive slope, up 1 over 2, put a dot. Up 1 over 2, put a dot. Down 1 over 2, put a dot. Down 1 over 2, put a dot. And then you're going to get a beautiful ruler out and draw an amazing line. And it should look like this. Go ahead and complete the assignment that is attached in Schoology.